Welcome, everyone. I'm Greg Stanley. I'm here with Wes Warren. We're talking about, as we always do, building a practice that can sustain associates. Well, that said, COVID dealt us some incredible setbacks. In fact, so many practices literally can't find the bottom. They can't find where to restart. They've lost so many key players. They have new staff that aren't trained. There's all kinds of problems. And maybe they have associates to try to feed new patients to through marketing, but they just don't have the same support system. And for that associate, the truth is they can't offer the same opportunity if the staff are just chaotic.
Yeah, we're seeing weak staff would be the so new hires. Out of 10 that we'll see around the country, one will be good, but the rest will be super weak, super green, unmotivated. I mean, I don't want to say anything bad about millennials, but if you were to take all those stereotypes that encapsulate millennials, that's kind of what we're getting. People that are just not inspired, not really care about their job, their work performance, on and on and on, not motivated, not focused, certainly don't have a dental background. If they do, it's the last year or two is kind of what we're getting. And it leaves practices in this, well, you're sitting here, you're listening to this, it's probably because you are in this situation. You know exactly what this is doing to practices. We have all kinds of chaos that comes from this. And so today is just talking about how to fix it, how to turn it around, what we've done at Whitehall with our clients to really turn the ship around and get these practices and the team pointed in the right direction and dealing with the lack of motivation from these new employees and their experience, the lack of experience that they have.
Let's look at the depths of this problem.
Okay.
See, a lot of doctors hearing this are sitting and thinking, well, they'll come back. I had these great people that went home or they went away, they'll come back. I want to let you know that it's possible they'll never come back. I saw a study that showed a lot of people who left jobs, where they went to work. You hear a lot about this in New York City. 60% of the jobs in New York City are now people have left New York City and trying to work from home. So many of the people who have left jobs to have a home gig, you might say, literally are trying to cheat. They have 2 full-time incomes. They'll get 2 jobs and work 2 jobs from home. Now, I'm sure the employers of these people don't know about the other employer any more than a guy's girlfriend knows about his other girlfriend or whatever. But this is what you're competing with. You might have staff that now are enjoying 2 full-time incomes from the comfort of their own living room, and you're going to try to fix it by throwing $3 an hour at it. It's just not going to do it. Now, you can either throw more and more and more till it's not even a profitable endeavor, or you can accept that I've got to work with people that lack any dental background or significant dental background, and I've got to bring them up to speed. So, Wes, when you ask what we can do about this, what steps we can take, it's so important that people first understand what you might be up against. Some of us are literally trying to buy time, and we're trying to do it under a false pretense. This idea that they'll come back. They're not coming back.
Yeah, I think I totally agree. The good people are gone.
Some have 2 incomes, and most of them that have found a gig at home, a Zoom gig, they don't want to come back. And you start adding money to get them back, it probably doesn't offset the babysitting and the travel and all of that. So if we're going to take people and bring them up to speed, first of all, you have to understand something. This has been done. We didn't invent it. And dentistry didn't invent it. It was shown through the decades, through the ages by the military. In the Marine Corps, for example, we take people with no soldiering experience, and in a period of 2 months, basically, we have effective soldiers. And there's a lot of discipline and oversight and enforcement involved. So we're going to have to take some cues from them with the parts of that that are palatable. Some of it isn't, some of it's just military, just not dentistry. So there's some things you'll have to put in place, and we're going to outline them here and talk about them. There's basically 3 things you have to rebuild to a better than before COVID practice, all right? Number 1, you're going to have to be able to name leaders. And some of you are thinking, I don't have any staff left. How am I going to name a leader? Well, we're going to look for somebody that could put that hat on, at least part-time. Somebody that we could point to and start to make them accountable. We'll come back to that and talk about that. Having a leader doesn't turn green staff or undisciplined, experienced staff into good followers, into good cultural fits. Number 2 is we're going to have, and this is something Wes and I have literally a lifetime of experience with, is workable bonuses. And notice I use multiple bonuses. There's different bonuses. We have one team bonus, and we have several that go to individuals. And we'll come back to that. That, Wes talked about, we now have staff. The only people we can get are untrained, unmotivated, unguided because our leaders left. In other words, we're trying to rebuild. We're giving you right now the formula. And so with bonus now, people are somewhat open, and I say somewhat, to training. And as Wes will talk about in a minute, training isn't really what you think it is. You think it's throwing some recordings or videos or something to people, and they're going to go off and become great dental personnel. Probably unlikely. So let's start with these leaders, bonus, and focused training.
So training, what we see, so we work with people, we try to train them. And what I've learned about training is I almost cannot train anybody until there's some kind of bonus in place. Maybe only the top brass in your office, so your leaders, can I work with them on real training where they actually learn it and say, yeah, it's great. I'm going to use that. It's great. It's working great. And yeah, so there's 10-20% of your team that can take training and utilize it. But the rest of them, man, I've really struggled to get any traction in training people. And you're giving them gold, as far as what to say to a patient when they're calling to cancel, and you can't get them to do any of it. And it's really frustrating for us, as we work with people to try to, we're constantly talking to their team, and it goes in one ear and out the other. We train them 3 weeks in a row. And then we kind of hand it to them. Okay, what's the script? What are you supposed to say when somebody calls to cancel? And they go, and they'll fumble through it. It's just embarrassing. And we'll do this for months on end, where it's like embarrassing, kind of doing this back and forth with them. And until we get a bonus in place, it's just in one ear and out the other. That is the single most important thing outside of leadership, is getting this effective bonus in place where you have their attention, where it's enough money and they feel like they can get it just about every month, where if they hit some simple guidelines, that all of a sudden they go, hey, I can make real money here. How do I stop people from canceling? All of a sudden they what's that script again? That's the only way we're able to get traction with these people they're marginal people. These are people that are doing just enough to stay on the payroll. They're doing just enough not to be fired, not to have their neck stick up too high, in the chicken coop. They're doing just enough not to be noticed, and not to be yelled at all the time. And that's all you're getting. I would start with making sure you have an effective bonus where people really feel inspired by it.
These things, these bonuses Wes is talking about, are fluid. They have a tendency to end up off the rails. And it's kind of one of the things we do as coaches that keeps things right. Because without that bonus, every time we try to teach staff scripts or try to get them to do certain things with certain patients, et cetera, they see us as nothing more than an irritant. And if they can, they give us the trap door.
The bonus is like a continuum. We always talk about continuums in Whitehall. So you have a continuum of bonus where it is unattainable or it becomes an entitlement. And obviously both sides, it's no good. So obviously if you've done bonus before, you've ran into the problem where it becomes entitlement. And a lot of you have done bonuses where it's kind of unattainable. It only happens every 3 months or something like that. It's unattainable. The secret of bonus is, like Greg said, it's fluid, constantly maneuvering it to get it back into the middle zone where it's tough to get, but you can get it. And it's not an entitlement. And that's the secret of bonus. And
Okay,
never forget that.
I'd go one
That's your
step
job.
farther. Yeah. I would say, like Wes said, training without bonus is a waste of effort. I might also add that leaders without bonus on the staff is equally wasted time. Let me explain why. These leaders have nothing that can inspire people to engage. People can sit there, wait for the leader to turn their head, check their phone, and just waste time. So here's a staff person's outlook. All right, I got this bonus I can get, but I'm going to need a little training, a little information from Whitehall. I'm going to need my leaders to pave the way and get the doctor to quit showing up late or quit getting into the treatment room late. In other words, being a leader and having training is only so you can get more bonus. And until you see it that way, I promise you, you're not seeing it the way staff see it.
Yeah, leadership, we have great leaders in Whitehall. And if you drown them with enough of these people, which many of our offices have been faced with, they just kind of just shrug they don't know what to do, just like you don't know what to do. And I would start with bonus, making sure that you've got an effective bonus that's driving the team, that they're pushing for and that they believe in, but it's hard. It's still somewhat hard to get in. It hits that center zone that I'm talking about. At that point, now all of a sudden you can introduce training. First of all, most offices don't do any training. So let's just start there. Most offices don't close down. They don't take any time to do training. And if they do, because I've sat in most of them, they'll take 1 hour, maybe an hour and a half every other week for training or, an office meeting. And it just turns into oh, we had a patient last week and we forgot the form and we need to make sure we get the form. And it just comes into a procedural meeting. That is not training. That makes the practice run a little bit smoother, but it quickly dives into some procedural nightmare in terms of a meeting. Make sure that it sticks on training and that you're having people come up and you do some role playing with the training. Get them up in front of the group and there's role playing happening and that you're going through it and you're training people exactly how you want things done. For me, that's where I would start. And I would probably do every other week, hour and a half, especially if you have this situation we're talking about. We have a lot of new people. I would definitely invest in training. When I say invest in it, take time off and do it.
Yeah, and remember, telling people something isn't training. Telling them until they can tell you back what you told them, that's training.
Yeah, there's got to be indoctrination of it. Having done it for so long, the team will do it just well enough to get you off their back. If there's no bonus, they will, like everybody's experienced this, where when you get real hot on something, yeah, and they'll, oh, he's really hot on, and for 2 or 3 weeks, they'll do it right until you get hot on something else. And 2 or 3 months go by and you go, hey, are we still doing? And they're like, oh, no, we stopped doing that. And that's just kind of been your life. And it's worse now is really what the bottom line is. So it takes this bonus in place to where they get their attention. They want to do it right because it impacts how much money they can make. And now you got leadership oversight and accountability to reinforce it as rebar. We haven't really talked about leadership all that much yet, but that's kind of their job, is to make sure that they're enforcing this once it's in place, and spot checking it and monitoring everything in terms of the team, making sure that they're doing it right, and holding people and bringing people up short that aren't following through with the key things of the practice.
Just a comment on that too. Being brought up short by the doctor can be so painful to a normal staff person. They're thinking of either trying to pay you back for that, or they're looking for work somewhere else. Taking it from a staff person, a peer level manager, they can deal with that. That still should be done very subtly and very carefully. But the doctor trying to bring people up short, staff want to go drown themselves. It's too strong. The medicine is too strong.
It should never happen, right?
Yeah.
You should
So
never be
leaders-
disciplining a team member.
So when I say leaders, bonus, and training, the truth is it's bonus done right, with leaders to help them get it and training to help them get it. And in other words, the leader will kind of help keep the doctor out of the way of them losing their bonus. And the training helps them make a few small moves with patients that ensure that it's going to happen. This is what you need. You get this back on track, you're going to build a powerhouse practice like so many had before. I've watched doctors just taken to their knees with turnover. In fact, they lose all their staff. They lose a bunch of staff, which they go, well, I guess I didn't need them. And then they lose their good staff, and then they lose their leaders. Well, they've got a ton of patients. And so let's talk about how we're going to rebuild it. And that's it. Leaders, bonus, and training. Now, Wes, in the weeks to come, this is not teasing people with information so they have to call us. You're always welcome to call us. But we're going to talk about bonus on our next broadcast.
Yeah.
Then we're going to talk about leaders, and we're going to talk about training. And we're not going to hold back. We don't do that at Whitehall. So that's what you can look forward to, is how to put this thing back on the tracks. Now, if you would like to talk to us, we're here. We'd love to hear from you.
I think it's time to get serious about the fundamentals. Anytime you play a sport or anytime you do anything at a high level, it always boils down to fundamentals, doing a few certain simple things right, but correctly every time. And a lot of our offices are down to that, where you just got to go back to the basics, go back to the drawing board, and really insist on the fundamentals being done correctly, and creating a system, a loop like you're talking about, where you got a bonus, so everybody's motivated. You got leadership to train and also hold them accountable, and so this loop just continues. That's really the secret. I mean,
I've lost track of the offices that got this going, made their office into a great place to be employed, but slowly let go of these concepts. They just slowly went for what was more convenient. Maybe same thing with nitrous. Remember, everybody was doing nitrous, and then it's just more convenient not to do it. And they see their new patient numbers fall off. There's so many things in dentistry that we can let fall away during good times.
So what to look forward to, we're going to talk about exactly how to lay out different bonuses so we can get in that center point that I was talking about. The next thing we're going to talk about is training, what you should train on, what's important. Remember, there are things that really matter. Things that make a practice run smooth, that's great, but really that drives the production, drives the practice to actually produce more. And we want to make sure that we've got those fundamentals down. So we're going to talk about those training that you have to have down.
Conceptually, it's going to be presented to you in the form of things staff can learn to prevent problems with patients. Once a patient says, I want to think it over, that's a lot of dentistry. I'm not sure about that. It's really hard to save it at that point. Training is how to prevent overwhelm, underwhelm, etc. We'll get into that. And as far as leaders go, they don't have to be geniuses. They just have to think consciously, how can I get this team more bonus? And it's going to work. You're going to be thrilled with the outcome, probably better than before COVID.
So yeah, stay tuned, stay listening, and we're going to cover each one of these things in detail, exactly, procedurally, exactly what you need to do.
So come with pencil and paper.
Yep. All right. Thanks for listening.